Making sure everything's good. Okay.
Good here.
Good. You guys good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go to the slideshow and present. It takes a second for people to get in here. Do you guys have a good day?
Pretty good.
Uneventful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I talked to Ryan for a second, Matt, but the Bengals are opening up as 3-point underdogs for the Packers.
And is that home or away?
That's at Cincinnati.
Okay, yeah, that makes a little more sense.
Yeah.
But I mean, Packers are. I mean, they're pretty hot right now.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
That's so weird. Like that first game, they were so terrible.
And then they.
And others kind of back to normal, but.
Well, the Packers didn't impress me too much against the Steelers.
Yeah,
especially being at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually see that game, but I mean, it looked, based on the score.
The Steelers, are not the same.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so we should be good to start if you guys are ready.
Yep.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, welcome to the Drop the Gloves podcast, Episode 5, Week 6. I'm your host, Paul O'Leary, hosted alongside Ryan Berhar, and this week we have special guest Matt Lanpheare. Thank you, everybody, for coming on. Start out, we got a recap of Week 5, so I'll go ahead and ask each of you what you guys think here. We'll go over this pretty quickly. Ryan, Alabama easily handles Ole Miss 42-21.
Yeah, I mean, I know we were questioning how good Ole Miss is, given that they had not played as many games as everyone else, and their quality of opponents was not very good. And I mean, I know we kind of thought they were overrated, and I mean, I don't think anything happened to change our minds. What do you think?
I'm with you right there. They fell out of my rankings, but Matt, I'll ask you this one: Georgia dominates Arkansas 37-0.
Well, obviously, I'm on the same page with the Arkansas argument. I mean, I know they're number 13 this week. In all honesty, I would have had them way farther down, and I believe Georgia, the way they play with their defense, they do have a few question marks on offense with their wide receivers, but outside of that, I think they're better than Alabama, and I think they should be the number one team in the nation.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that as well. Now, Ryan, you would probably know more about this one, unfortunately. Oregon gets upset in overtime by Stanford 31-24.
Yes, I'm grieving still. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to be careful not to just go on a huge rant.
Okay, we can get more into it if you want, well, because I know what you're going to bring up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those where, like, we just kind of got screwed, frankly, like, on that final possession.
Yeah, I watched that, and that was not... there are 3 questionable calls in a row, I'd say.
I mean, you can probably confirm this, like, because I don't want people thinking I'm just a blame the refs person. Like, I don't do that generally.
Right.
But there were 3 just killer penalties, and I thought they were all bogus, and those are the kind of games that just rip my heart out, because it's like, I'm perfectly fine losing if the other team is just better.
Right, and
But when some BS thing happens,
yeah,
or some fluky
and
thing happens.
I was gonna say you're not the only one. If you look on social media, anything about that game, a lot of people posted about it, including myself. But Matt, Iowa buries Maryland 51-14 on Friday.
Iowa's legit, and they're going to prove it against Penn State. And I mean, Penn State does have a chance to win this football game, but I think Iowa's going to win this game by minimum 7-10.
Okay. Ryan, this one you probably know more of. Oklahoma escapes Kansas State 37-31.
Yeah, I actually didn't see much of that one, but just, I mean, they escaped, at the end. Like, it just seems like they're just scraping by every week, and I finally, I mean, I was holding on to Oklahoma, until this week, and we'll get to that, but I finally dropped them a little bit.
Yeah, I had to as well.
I mean, I want very much to just leave them up there, but it's just like at this point, it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Can I say something about Oklahoma? I am sorry. Oklahoma is it is my most conspiracy team in the entire ranking. They start out the season number 2. And if you look at all of their wins, they beat Tulane by 5. They beat Nebraska by a touchdown. And they beat West Virginia by 3 points. And they're number 6 in the country. How's that possible, in my opinion?
No, I agree with you. And it shows in my rankings as well. I even got into it a little bit with Ryan about it, that I think if Oklahoma stayed undefeated for the rest of the season the way they're playing, that you take a one-loss Big Ten champ over them. But
yeah, that was a fun debate. Huh?
Yeah, that was fun. Now
that is a committee team right now because they need a Big 12 team. Big 12 team in the 4.
I agree with that. And Matt, I'll stay with you on this one because I'm sure you'd love to talk about this one. Cincinnati takes care of Notre Dame 24-13.
That was a very, very impressive win for Cincinnati. I mean, there's a lot of hype around the city on how big that win was, but I will just take it a step backwards. Notre Dame is kind of reeling right now, but UC went in there and had an opportunity to win a football game and took very much care of what they needed to take care of. They left no doubt on who were the better team on that field was, leading 17-0 at halftime. Notre Dame creeped back in the game, and they still shut the door on them. And it showed a lot of poise, a lot of leadership. This team is growing every week, and I'm looking forward to them the rest of the year.
I agree. And then Ryan here, Ohio State controls Rutgers with 52-13 win.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's a good
bounce back.
That's a great win, man.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I watched this game. It was over in the first quarter, by the way. This same Rutgers team just played Michigan to a one-score game the week before that. So that just made me wonder, like, really.
No, I mean, yeah, they're. Yeah, I mean, maybe a game where Ohio State finally breaks through a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the game I'm waiting for Oklahoma to have that they're not yet to have.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, great point. Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Matt, Florida stunned by Kentucky 20-13.
Should we say stunned? I mean, Kentucky's beaten them before. At this point, Kentucky's a pretty good football team. They're creeping up the ladder, and they're the team that should have been in Arkansas' seat or Ole Miss's seat. In all honesty, with the quality wins that they have, they're a way better ranked team than any of those two. Not saying they would have ever beat Alabama, Georgia, or anything like that, but I think they would have put a better showing on the field.
That's fair. Ryan here. Michigan pulls away from Wisconsin 38-17.
Yeah, I saw a good amount of that one because the Georgia-Arkansas game was so boring. But I mean, Wisconsin, like, this is probably the worst Wisconsin team we've seen in some time.
Yeah, and it's all on their offense, too. I think their defense is spectacular. Spectacular. Left in bad positions every time. I will stand on my hill that Wisconsin's defense is one of the top in the country.
Absolutely. I mean, you saw them, the week before versus Notre Dame, I think it was. Yeah, and they murdered that quarterback.
Yeah, I know.
So, I mean, their defense is very good, but they can't
move the ball at all.
They can't move the ball. Yeah, and Michigan is pretty balanced.
Yeah, I was also surprised by that.
Can I chime in on Michigan?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, with going off what Ryan said, Wisconsin and what you're saying on the defense will win you games, but defense gets tired in the fourth quarter, and that's what's happening in Wisconsin. They're giving up their leads in the fourth quarter in every game that they were even close in. It's just because their defense is you just can't run them out there that much. But with the Michigan side of it, that's my upset of the week coming up when they're playing Nebraska. Have you guys seen what Nebraska's done to every loss they've had?
Yeah, and they just won by 7 touchdowns last week as well.
Nebraska is that team that is on as the up and coming in the Big Ten, and I'm telling you, I think Michigan's going to run into a brick wall this week.
I was also kind of circling that game to talk about, but we'll keep on moving on and get to that in a little bit. But Matt, it's on you for this one. I'm sure you both could chime in on this. Mississippi State, one of I would say the middle of the pack bottom feeders of the SEC right now, lost to Memphis, right, a couple weeks ago. Memphis from the American Conference. Mississippi State hands Texas A&M their second straight loss, 26-22.
I mean, is that an indictment on Texas A&M, or should we be propping up Mississippi State? That's the question.
Indictment on Texas A&M. The committee puts them at 5 or 6 in the last 2 seasons without any reasoning behind it.
Yeah, again, man, it's just the strength of one conference over the other. The Big Ten normally always has one team starting out early. Ohio State was this year number 3. And then the rest of them were bottom feeding and working their way up. And it always seems the SEC starts out so many teams in the top 10, and then they just falter. It's not that they're beating up on themselves. A lot of them are ranked, in my opinion, and that's one of them.
Yeah. And Ryan, I'm the biggest anti-A&M person in the last 2 seasons.
Yeah. I'm sure that made you very happy.
Yeah.
I think they're out of everyone's rankings at this point, right?
Yeah, they have to be, right? You lose 2 straight. Yeah. Now this one, I don't know if anybody watched it, Ryan, but I'm sure Coastal Carolina steamrolls University of Louisiana Monroe 59-6.
Nice.
Yeah, they're just taking care of business. What they have to do to keep maintaining their rank, they can't really play a close game. Now, here you go, Matt. And I watched some of this game. The score kind of doesn't tell the whole story to it, but Michigan State tops Western Kentucky 48-31. I watched this game with CJ, and it was like 48-16 with 5 minutes left. I guess they scored a couple garbage time touchdowns, but Michigan State's still undefeated.
Well, that's the thing. The Big Ten's going to beat up on each other because the West never has anybody. They got Iowa. Look at the East: Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State. I mean, they're just going to beat up on each other the rest of the season, and who comes out on top? Michigan State has a right to be there. They're 5-0. I mean, they could be that team also. And I'm an Ohio State fan, and I would love to see them win. But I got to be honest, Penn State is a solid program. I think Michigan is not as good as their ranking, but we'll see. And Michigan State definitely belongs where they're at.
Yeah, Michigan State also with a key win, out of conference win as well, over Miami on the road this year, earlier this season.
Actually in the Big Ten.
Yeah, which I'll also get into that in a little bit. Ryan, a team you were high on. Also, I was pretty high on. Fresno State shocked by Hawaii, 27-24.
Yeah, that disappointed me a little bit. I didn't see that game, but
I'm not sure if many people do. It's so late for us. That game started at midnight, I think.
Yeah, but I definitely was high on Fresno State, and definitely kind of a bummer, but
yeah,
they can bounce back still.
Now, I have an interesting fact about one of these teams coming up. That's a little hint towards the trivia coming up later. But Matt, Oklahoma State takes out Baylor 24-14.
Solid win. I like Oklahoma State better than I do Oklahoma, and that's pretty that's pretty bad to say, but I thought it was a solid win. I have them exactly where they belong, right in the middle of the rankings.
Yeah. Okay.
And anytime you can knock off a conference win, I mean, it's the way it should be. And conference wins are always tough to come by. I mean, they play each other so tough, no matter what the rankings are.
Yeah.
But I think Oklahoma State is exactly where they should be.
Now, the take that I get away from this is, you know how we were just talking about the Big Ten and SEC beating up on each other, right? In the rankings. What's the downside for the Big 12 in this is they're going to beat up on each other, and that's going to knock one of the teams out of the rankings. Baylor falls out of the rankings after just being put into it.
Right. Well, and that's why I'm saying they're keeping Oklahoma high right now because they want a Big 12 team to be up there. There is no ACC team this year. There is no Pac-10 because Oregon took a nosedive for whatever reason, but they need a third conference. If not, it's the SEC and Big 10. And they don't want that, can't have that. They have to have another conference sniffing that fourth spot. Yes, I know UC's up there, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Of the Power Fives.
Yeah. So, Ryan, this is your conference here, the Pac-12. Arizona State looked good again. They beat UCLA 42-23. Not really that close.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the better wins
on the road too
of the week. Yeah. So, the South has been very weird. Like, UCLA looked like maybe they were the team, but now I think Arizona State's kind of elevated into that spot. They're in the rankings. They're in my rankings now.
Right, they're in my rankings as well. But I mean, they're. Like I said, UCLA has been one of the weirder teams to watch. Another team that's kind of hard to put your thumb on, Matt. Auburn survives LSU in Death Valley, 24-19.
Well, you said it correctly. Survived.
Yeah.
Another overranked SEC team right now. I mean, they're 18th. I would have had them down around 24th, 25th. Not knock them out of the rankings altogether, but yeah, they're just one of those teams that are just not completely balanced yet.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go at a counter of this. I agree with you that, they should be winning by more, but I actually think Auburn's better than the Ole Misses and Arkansas when they play.
Well, I would agree with that statement.
I mean, it's kind of hard to say Auburn's overrated. I mean, they did play Penn State very closely.
Yeah, at the whiteout. That's right. A few weeks
LSU is a really tough environment to play in. So, I mean, I don't think it's reasonable to expect them to blow LSU out.
UCLA did it.
Was that at Death Valley?
No. I mean, I know home field advantage is a lot, but obviously it didn't mean too much for Oregon to beat Ohio State, right?
Well, I agree with Ryan on this statement 100%. When it comes to home field advantage this year, remember, we came out of a COVID year, and fans are dying to be there. Players are dying to hear the fans, and it's making a difference for home wins.
Yeah.
It truly is.
Well, and not only that, but that's a notoriously tough venue.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I know it's a fact from the NFL, but even to go more on what you guys are saying, last season the road team won more than the home team for the first time in history.
Mm-hmm.
Fans make a difference, man. They truly do.
Yeah, and then Ryan, I think this is an interesting team here because R.J. Young. First off, I don't know what he sees. I'm sure both of you guys know that, but A team that, I mean, even the AP poll, and I had to move up as well. BYU stays undefeated with 34-20 win over Utah State.
Yeah, I mean, I've just got them hovering right outside the top 10. I mean, I don't know a ton about them, but they're
I've picked them and pick
them
them since week 1 on the road or at home, and they've won every week. So, and they were unranked. I like I said, their system is what works for them. You remember me talking about Zach Wilson being a system quarterback for them?
Yeah.
And it's still paying dividends. Now, Matt, interesting one here for you. Speaking of it, NC State scrapes past Louisiana Tech 34-27. Interesting fact here. NC State is the highest ranked team in the ACC, and they scrape past Louisiana Tech by a touchdown.
And again, the ACC will not have a team in the Final Four this year, and they're doing everything they can to put another team up there. And you guys were just talking about BYU. Wait till the Big 12 is finally formed out with University of Cincinnati and BYU in that conference. It's going to be awesome to have BYU in a Power 5. But yes, NC State. I mean, what do you say to LA, Louisiana Tech? Seriously?
Yeah, I know. Like you said, they might not have anybody finish in the top 4. They might not have anybody finish in the top 20.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
So Ryan, speaking of the ACC, the breadwinner of the ACC right now is Wake Forest. And they survived Louisville 37-34.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
there's just no dominance anywhere
down there.
No.
Yeah, not looking good down there at all.
Like there's just, jeez. Speaking of the ACC again, the last team here. I'm sure you guys both have comments on this. Matt, I know you're going to disagree with Ryan here. He's still holding on to that reputation until they're knocked out completely. But Clemson wins ugly, 19-13 over Boston College. This is the worst offense I've seen since I've started watching college football, Clemson-wise.
Well, I'm going to give Ryan something to chew on, I guess. Oregon beat Ohio State, and Oregon was the better team that night on the field, correct? Ohio State loses by 7 and drops how far in the rankings that fast from 3rd to 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3rd to 11. Clemson has 2 losses. They didn't deserve to be in the top 25. And the team, I mean, to win by 3, I mean, they're scraping by and losing the teams they shouldn't be losing to. I mean, Boston College, really?
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
Is that a local high school team that we're talking about?
This is supposed to be the almighty Clemson Tigers.
They're just having an off year.
Yeah.
And which happens. And that's the problem. We put so much onus on college sports. They're just kids, man.
Yeah,
they're 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah, and here's the thing, Matt, that, I mean, probably not a lot of people agree with. Clemson is playing the same football, maybe a little bit worse than Oklahoma, but 2 possessions have gone their way. Haven't gone their way that have gone Oklahoma's way so far.
Again, I did my homework on Oklahoma. That Oklahoma's wins are within 7 or less points.
To Tulane.
Go to over. Yes. I again, man, Oklahoma does not deserve to be in the top 10.
Well, let's talk about the rankings then. So I have my rankings here, Ryan's rankings, and the AP rankings pulled up. So I had to move Iowa up 1, Penn State up 3. My top 10 follows: Alabama, Georgia, Iowa, Penn State, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Coastal Carolina. I actually thought the AP poll did a good job this week. This was my hardest week to make my rankings, and I thought the AP almost nailed it right on the head. I know I get a lot of people saying I'm biased towards the Big Ten, but I have them either the exact same as the AP or even the AP has them higher than me. I jumped Kentucky to 16. I mean, that's exactly what the AP poll did. I know, Ryan, you put Kentucky at 25, but you're still hanging on to Clemson there.
Yes, and I know that's definitely the most controversial thing that I did.
Yeah.
And I could be I could be very wrong about that, but I just think, like, they did win their game, and, like...
Yeah, I've never dropped somebody 8 spots after winning, but I did
exactly.
that. I did
You
that.
dropped them 8 after a win. Like, that to me just... And then not being in the top 25 AP...
They're 3-2. I'll say that. Like, it's kind of hard to keep them like decently ranked at 3-2. I mean, I have Iowa State as my only other 3-2 team, and they're at 22. And neither one of those teams are even in the 25 for AP.
Well, Ryan, I'll counter that argument with Cincinnati's argument. Cincinnati in week 3 won 42-7 and dropped in ranking.
A dominant one.
I mean,
so
that's not my ranking.
No, but you understand what I'm saying, man. There is some politics going on when it comes to these rankings at times. I honestly feel like, because this entire world is motivated by money, and a lot of these schools are motivated by money, and they need certain schools in the top 25. But how do you keep Clemson up there, honestly?
I have them at 19 for me. I still have them in the rankings for the simple fact that I don't see certain teams below them still beating them. I mean, as unimpressive that it is, like, I'm sorry, I don't think that Wake Forest beats them. Yeah, I guess we'll be able to see it. But I wouldn't hold on to them that high, though, Ryan, anymore.
Well, that's exactly where I land with it. Like, I mean, are you really going to pick Kentucky to beat Clemson?
I think they would right now.
Yeah, I would.
Right now.
Josh.
I think Clemson's a shell of themselves, Ryan. And I know that you're a big reputation guy. That's why, actually, okay, so Ryan's an Oregon fan, Matt, as you know. His rankings go, his top 5 is Alabama, Georgia. He has Ohio State at 3. Iowa 4, Penn State 5.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm very big on reputation is because that's just kind of the nature of college football. Like it's about the coach, and it's about the system and the recruiting. It's like it's a funnel of talent, and so I'm supposed to believe like that Clemson or Ohio State, who's not suffering like Clemson, but like that somehow the talent just quit going in there. Like, I mean, when they have the same coaches and like same presumably quality of recruiting.
Yeah, here's my side to that, Ryan. I agree with you. To Clemson's side and Ohio State, if we want to compare them here, Clemson's going to play in the ACC. They don't have a ranked opponent on the schedule right now. Ohio State still has 3 more, and they're all in the top 11. But here's what I'm going to say to it. Both of these teams, on paper, and every time they go up to a game on Saturday, with the recruiting they have, are going to be more talented than the team they're playing. And they probably have better coaching than the team they're playing. But that doesn't mean that the other coach can't have a better game plan or so-and-so, or be playing better overall. But that's what's holding on to me for Clemson to have them at number 19. But Clemson isn't showing their talent when they're supposed to be beating teams like Ohio State just did to Rutgers 52-13. Like, they're struggling on teams that are nowhere near their talent.
Yeah, I agree. I think another part is like, I think we see a lot of playing down to the competition, and a lot of my logic is more like, if Clemson was, I guess, fully motivated, let's say.
I mean, I could see it. Like they're just not wanting to. I mean, I don't see Dabo doing
what
that
Ryan's
though.
What Ryan's trying to say is Clemson has had a standard for the last 3 years, and they're not meeting that standard, and I think it's ruining their demeanor on the football field. And they are playing at their opponent's level. It shouldn't be an excuse, though, but I can see what he's saying. It's messing with their psyche to a certain degree. I mean, Trevor Lawrence came in as a freshman and was a starter for them for 3 straight years, and they were 3 straight years in the Final Four, correct?
Yeah. 1-1.
Now, yeah, well, they have that same expectations of bringing in the next freshman quarterback or the next quarterback up, and it's just not there this year. And it's not their fault. They have to. Dabo's got to coach them up and see what happens. This is a building year for them. We just got to accept it. Instead of making excuses for them, they're just not that good.
And, I mean, we saw DJ, last year a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was really good.
Yeah, he beat Notre Dame.
I mean, what's the deal with that? Like, I think that goes back to the psyche thing, as you were saying. It's like, like DJ is a good quarterback. I mean, we've seen that. So that's really a big piece of it for me. Like, it is the quarterback, obviously, right? Like,
yeah, I'm gonna kind of go off a really hot take here that I don't know if you are gonna agree with here, Ryan. Do you know who the 3 youngest teams in the top 25 are this year?
Youngest?
Yeah, well, I guess Clemson's not in the top 25, but they are in there. Yeah, Clemson, and what 2 other schools do you think are the youngest?
I honestly have no idea.
Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State are the youngest because they have the most turnover rate of players going to the NFL. Okay. I think that Ryan Day and Nick Saban are just out-coaching Dabo at this point to where they're almost farming in, the younger players better or along those lines, and that's why we're seeing this fall off when those 3 are the youngest teams in the country when it comes to this level.
NFL factories, man, all 3 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, your opponent, when you were talking about having Ohio State at number 3, Ryan, I'm just asking as an observer, is that in the fact that because Oregon beat them, that you need Ohio State to be up there, or is that a legit where you think Ohio State should be?
No, that's legit. Yeah, it's not like I don't have.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I'm just asking because I'm just an observer. Because I'll be biased as I can possibly be with Notre Dame. I hope Notre Dame wins every single game from this point forward, and they win by double digits.
For Cincinnati, yeah.
Yeah, because that'll make that win look that much more impressive at their place, breaking a home win streak and everything else. But if they fall on their face and lose 2 more games, that win's not going to be that important.
Right.
No, it just goes back to like, and the way I do my rankings is just like who will beat who. So like, I am just not convinced that Iowa or Penn State will beat Ohio State.
That's fair.
Okay. I mean, you're gonna get too much argument out of me, but
yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, man.
Yeah.
Well, I actually agree with what Ryan's trying to say. He's absolutely right. Iowa and Penn State have floated up there. They've been there before, but as fast as they've ran up there, it's like they haven't earned their stripes to get up there just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're also talking about the top-notch programs in college football. You go back in history. Right. Alabama and Ohio State are the 2 that have been there, and you could put Notre Dame as well up there, like consistently year in, year out, not like 11-win season to 3-win season and hopping back and forth and that. No, you're there all the time.
Dude, if Alabama had 1 loss, it was number 4. I wouldn't argue it because you know what? They're going to get their crap together by the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that's why I'm just more stubborn when it comes to college football than like NFL or NBA or something where it's just there's a lot more change from year to year in terms of someone could just be really great one year, trash the next year. I mean, college football just doesn't generally work that way.
The college football playoff has been out for quite some time now. 8 year. This is their 7th year, and Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson have all been there at least 3 times more than any other teams.
Yeah.
Yep. I can only name a couple schools: Oklahoma and Michigan State, but Oklahoma is what they've been
Notre Dame as well,
times. And Notre Dame. That's correct.
I think Washington went one year.
Well, Oregon went the first year.
Oregon went. Florida State went.
Did you say Michigan State?
Michigan State 2015 they went. Yeah.
Yep, they sure did.
Yep.
I do not have any memory of that.
They lost to Alabama.
That is weird.
Well, we'll move on here now. I know that some of us might have a big, debate on this, or we might not. But I'm dying on this hill. Put it this way: I'm tired of seeing it. I talked about it last week for a little bit, Ryan. The best conference in college football, and after this past weekend, I'm sold. I'm going to say it now. I think the Big Ten is the best conference in college football. If you look at undefeated teams by conference, the Big Ten has the most. You look at the most wins out of conference, Big Ten has the most. Most teams in the top 11, they have 5. And I made the topic depth versus top heavy because you can easily make the arguments that Alabama and Georgia are the best 2 teams in the country. I don't think a lot of people are really debating that, but when it comes to overall looking at a conference, I think that it's not crazy to say that the Big Ten is the best conference. What do you think?
Well, we had a big debate about this, and I don't think we really disagree. It's just a perspective. So, like, you're looking at the entirety of the conferences.
Yeah, I think that's how you decide the best conference and not the best team.
And that's fine. Like, I agree with you about that. But my take was that if you have by far the 2 best teams in the entire country, that for me outweighs the fact that Rutgers is better than Vanderbilt.
I think Vanderbilt weighs down the mighty of Alabama and Georgia, though.
Well, and that's fine, I just. Yeah.
So, Matt, me and you talked about this as well, and I think the easiest way to go over it, if I'll let you elaborate here, but like I was saying, the easiest way to go over this, I think, is to compare them to what they do to the other conferences when they play.
Well, not only that, like Ryan's saying, what he's trying to say is probably your number 1-2 team in the country, your number 1 team overall, chances of winning the national title will probably come out of the SEC this year. And you would be if you were a betting man, you'd be a fool to bet against that. But what we're trying to say, Paul, is when you got Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State all within the top 11. Michigan State, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all play each other in the same bracket of their conference. So you're looking at 4 top 10 or 4 top 11 teams playing against each other for the next 6 to 7 games, beating the crap out of each other. And Alabama will be playing the Citadel here soon, and Georgia will be playing whoever they got to. And then those 2 teams will meet up in the SEC conference. The winner will be the number 1 overall. The loser will be the number 4. And the scenario is already laid out for us to watch. Who's going to be number 2 and who's going to be number 3?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Big Ten is designed to play in the winter, and the SEC is designed to play in summer-like weather. And then they don't beat up on each other all season long. It used to be LSU was good one year, with Joe Burrow and all that. They beat up on each other. It really showed.
Yeah. Alabama dropped to number 8 that year.
Yeah, that's when you realized the conference was really good because there was more than one good team and they were beating up on each other. This year, the Big Ten's got a lot of really good teams. SEC don't, but it will benefit the SEC in the long run due to the fact they're not going to get beat up going into the playoff.
Yeah, and like you were saying, the Big Ten has Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, Ohio State all playing each other over the next 6 weeks. And what they potentially could get rewarded for that is a number 3-4 team in the country in Iowa in the Big Ten championship as well.
Right, or someone is going to be watching the game from their house or playing in a garbage bowl. Come on, I mean, it's just until they expand this, and I know they're going to expand it. Do you guys know when that expansion is supposed to happen?
I don't think there's anything official yet. We talked about it. Ryan's against the expansion. He's either he liked the BCS.
Man, I can't. BCS, dude, like I told you, is nothing more than figure skating that contact sport-wise. I mean, you got people judging other teams by just simply. I mean, we're judging teams right now, and I wouldn't feel comfortable saying this team's the best team in the country just because of the eye test and what I think. When it comes down to it, I like teams playing against each other. When you have 8 teams, you take your champions from the Power 5, you got 3 at-larges, and that gives you opportunity for your Power 6, your Notre Dames, whatever to get in. Then it's a fair shake. 8 teams to me seems awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan?
Yeah, you want me to make my BCS point again, or?
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's essentially, I mean, it worked just fine. Like, we got the 2 best teams in the national championship every year, and then we had meaningful bowl games, meaningful consolation prizes. Now, with the 4-team playoff, no one cares about bowls at all, and we just have and for the price of that, we just have an extra 2 teams in the playoff, and the 4 seed, who historically just gets run over anyway. So I don't like this 4 team at all. I'm not opposed to a 8 team format. I think that'd be better, better than what we have now.
Yeah.
But I'm just personally very fond of the BCS.
Real quick, Paul, I agree with him to a certain degree, especially on the bowl comment. The bowls are kind of garbage.
I agree with them too on that.
But that's not the fault of anything but the NFL. The NFL and the Combine is more important than bowl games right now. So a lot of your star players, and if they're not in a profile bowl game, they're just going to sit out. And it doesn't matter if the BCS was kicking in or not. It's just the way it is. And then after that is the transfer portal. You got guys that are just looking to enter the transfer portal. They don't care about what's going to happen. So you got 2 things working against bowl games at all times.
Yeah, and I hate to see that because I want to see Oklahoma full strength play, Georgia or something.
Me too. I want to see quality football just like
I think that's the best way to decide who the best conference is.
I agree again.
So now we got our... Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just need to follow that up.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's the Bulls are ruined because of the NFL. Yeah.
The Combine specifically.
The Combine specifically, correct. There are people willing to bail out to get ready for the Combine more so than play in that bowl game.
But why wasn't that the case during the BCS?
Because of the transfer portal that is just now kicking up. You got players. Well, Jerome Ford that plays for University of Cincinnati. He came from Alabama. The reason he transferred is because Najee Harris and who's the other running back?
He sat behind Najee Harris,
Ryan Robinson.
And he sat behind Damian Harris too. Like they were all there.
all quality running backs. You know what I'm saying. So that transfer portal, there are players that would just don't want to get hurt, not going to play in a game that for a team they're not going to be playing for the following season. All these are going in there.
Sorry, go ahead.
I know that it seemed like a broad comment about the NFL, and the NFL's always been there, and the combines. But we all know the scrutiny and everything that goes into that combine now. I mean, it is a pay-per-view event at this point, just like the draft is. I mean, the NFL is blown up to the point that these players are thinking about their next season more so than they are the season that they're trying to finish up in college.
I agree with you, Matt, and I have something even to go more with that. I've tried to say to Ryan, I don't know if he necessarily agrees with me, but if you notice, the NFL scouts, they don't draft based off what they see on ESPN rankings. Ezekiel Elliott was the first overall running back taken. He wasn't even in the Heisman race. There were 3 running backs ahead of him. Mac Jones wasn't taken first. He was in the Heisman race. There were 4 quarterbacks taken in front of him. But the thing is, those guys that are sitting out and going and doing well in the combine, let's be honest, you go to a big school in college, you're not going to go to, if you're getting offered between Georgia or, her or whatever it was, the Walmart third shift school, Tennessee Tech of Cal Poly University online school, whatever. You go to these big schools to get drafted by the NFL. I don't really know how much pride is into it anymore for a lot of the players.
That's why I'm sorry.
Oh, I just see like a direct correlation between the advent of the playoff and sitting out bowls.
Well, like I said in my scenario last week, Matt, I don't know if you dove into it. Incorporate the bowls into the 18 playoffs. Make those bowls those playoff games.
Absolutely. If you have something to play for, you win your game, you move on, and you're headed towards your national championship, you're going to keep players on the field. But if you're playing in a bowl and that is the end of your season and you're looking at, I am leaving school this year, I'm either going into the transfer portal or I'm going to the NFL, why do I want to risk an injury with a school that I don't even feel like finishing up with in regards to there's no national championship and or I hope to be on another roster next year, either in college or in the NFL?
The lower the bowl with the bigger name school, the more people you see sit out.
All I could say is that combine and the Bengals and us drafting John Ross over Patrick Mahomes.
Ouch.
All because he had a great combine.
Yeah, we're going to move on to Heisman Hopefuls. And I have another topic for this another day, but I think this is this is the worst award to tell who the best player is, because I don't think that they actually look at who the best player is. They don't take context into it enough. But Heisman rankings, I have mine and Ryan's up here on the board. I got Bryce Young first. Number 2, I got Desmond Ritter. 3, CJ Verdell from Oregon. I know he went down with an injury, but did he not score? He scored a touchdown still Saturday, right?
He did.
Spencer Rattler at 4. And Matt, I noticed that Ryan threw C.J. Stroud on his list, but I got a different Ohio State Buckeye, a guy that's been on the rise. Travion Henderson has absolutely blown the doors off the last few games.
If you're going to put a freshman up there, I prefer Henderson over Stroud. But Stroud is a very nice talent when it comes to Ohio State. I don't know enough about the other candidates except for Des Ritter. And you and I spoke about this. You know, he got invited to Eli and Peyton Manning's quarterback camp over the summer, and it's showing dividends. The dude's got so much poise in the pocket. If he blows out the rest of his opponents, I honestly can see Ritter being there on the final stage. Not saying he's winning the Heisman, but I can definitely see him in New York.
Ryan, you want to go on your rankings? You have Bryce Young first, Desmond Ritter second, C.J. Stroud third, Matt Corral, Ole Miss 4, and Spencer Rattler 5.
Yeah, so I changed it up a bit this time.
Yeah.
Because C.J. Verdell, who is obviously my favorite player of this group, but but I just didn't feel like it was realistic to keep him in there just because he for two reasons. One, he got hurt.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. I have not heard anything about like anything concrete about his injury.
Okay.
But and as I've mentioned, he has a bit of a history with injuries. So
yeah, you did say he was injury prone.
Yeah, and it's never anything like too serious, but I could see Travis Dye kind of becoming the lead back, if for no other reason to preserve Verdell. And he just hasn't, like, against Ohio State, he was amazing.
Yeah.
And he hasn't really had another game like that. And if you're a running back, Heisman, like, you need, like, a bunch of those kind of games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't just, yeah. So,
he needs to be having the Travion Henderson games that he's had, breaking Big Ten records and stuff right now. You threw Stroud in there. I watched the game. Stroud looked a lot better against Rutgers. A lot better.
Yeah, and, I haven't been super high on Stroud because he just has such a overthrow issue.
Yeah, he does.
But his numbers are quite good, and I think people he's a case where you were talking about lack of context. Like, you could easily just look at his numbers and put him right up there.
Yeah.
So
now
I feel like he has a more realistic shot of winning it than everyone but Young and Ritter.
Okay, that's fair. And you guys both wanted to talk about this topic, so I got a couple minutes for it. Targeting. Do they have it right? What's wrong and what needs fixed? I got the picture on the screen of the hit that Thibodeau was ejected from the game for on the final drive against Stanford. As you can see, I think that there has to be change here. The amount of targeting calls that's been going on has been very extreme. I completely understand why they do it, but there has to be there has to be a difference. I agree with Joel Klatt with his take on this. There has to be a difference between intent and non-intent.
Well, can I chime in on this first?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My background, Paul. I'm a baseball official. I umpire baseball, so I do a lot of judgment calls throughout any game. And that is basically what the officials are supposed to do, is have a judgment call on the field, but they have taken away the judgment of it and just made it concrete. If his helmet's lowered and he's leading with the crown, it's automatic targeting. Well, that's crap, because if a player is coming in low to tackle the person's midsection and or legs, and the player leads with his shoulder, well, his head's attached to his shoulder. But if that offensive player happens to drop their head or body in any contorting manner and there's a collision in a split second, all of a sudden it's targeting. They slow it down into milliframes, and anything can look like targeting, in all honesty. I mean, the way the rule's written, just about any form tackle can look like targeting.
Yeah, and they're not even just doing crown of the helmet anymore. They're doing shoulder, anything above the shoulder, like above the chest, everything, not even leading with the helmet.
There's been so many. There was a few plays. Don't ask me to name the teams because I was watching a lot of games. But a quarterback was unnecessary roughness, and the defender came in, stayed high, but never hit him in the head. But his arm was close to his head, so they flagged him for it.
That might have been the Oregon game.
I said, "What's that?"
Yeah,
that's the drive we're talking about, too, right? I'm sure you would elaborate. Yeah.
No, I mean, Matt, I think that was very well said. You like, you gotta realize, like you were saying, like, all of this happens at, like, lightning fast speed. And, they're just someone's just trying to make a tackle. And the receiver, oftentimes, or the offensive player, oftentimes lowers his head. And I believe it was in the Iowa-Maryland game. They were discussing this, and it was I think it was Dean Blandino. He was saying that very often it should be targeting called on the offensive player, and they never call it.
Well, they never will, because that rule is written to protect them, not the defender. That's the biggest problem with the rule, Ryan. And like you said, the reason that an offensive player will lower their head sometimes, we've all played backyard football. We're not superior athletes, but we also know what it feels like to be tackled. So when we know we're going to get hit, guess what? We want to go down our way, not the defender's way, right?
Yeah, you want to brace, try not to get hurt.
Yeah, so a lot of offensive players will lower their heads and bodies to shorten that fall to the ground, and then turns out it's an inadvertent targeting call that should have never been called in the first place. The player's leading with the shoulder to make the tackle, but the offensive player happens to turn into him just enough to create that angle. It's just a ridiculous, and it's affecting these defenders, man. You get called that in the second half, halfway through the fourth quarter. Well, guess what? You're missing the first half of the next game. If that happens early in the third quarter, it's traumatic, man.
Well, the Oregon game, Kayvon Thibodeau, the number 1 overall draft prospect to go number 1 overall, on the stand that Oregon needs for the game, gets called for a BS penalty for targeting, and they throw him out, and they end up losing the game in overtime. And that same arm play you're talking about was on the same drive as that, after he was gone, on the exact same drive. And I know that that's got to be gut-wrenching for Ryan, but I understand why the targeting rule's there. All the concussion and CTE and all that, like, they're trying to protect it. But at the same time, I think intent has to be involved, and you can almost really see, I think launching is a main part of it, and
Absolutely.
Trying to avoid the you can mostly tell when it's on purpose or not, or you can even, like, a lot of the targeting calls that you see now, the players are, like, confused that they're even getting called for anything. Like, they look like they're almost going out of their way not to get targeting, then get called for targeting.
Yep.
Yeah,
if the hit's effective and the player goes down quickly and the player is neutralized once they touch the football, it immediately, like, maybe that was targeting. It's where they go with the flag next. And the thing is, how many times have they picked up the flag? I'd love to know the percentage of how many times they've actually picked it up and said there is no targeting on the field. If they throw a flag for targeting, I bet that percentage is in the 90 percentile that they get the call.
Yeah, and also, like we were talking about before, when there has to be, like, intent, I know Joe Klatt elaborated on this as well. I'm sure you guys would agree, right? When the intent is there's kids that are out here playing their hearts out, playing football, no intent to hurt the other player at all. They just make a hard hit, whatever, maybe on accident. They're ejected from the game. You can get over a 15-yard penalty. You can't get over ejected from the game.
Nope.
Exactly.
Like, when there's no intent at all, like, they're heartbroken for that. I feel for that. Like, you can tell, okay, Skalski, the Clemson linebacker, he's been thrown out of 8 games in his Clemson career, including the one against Ohio State in the playoff last year. Clearly targeting with the crown of his helmet. That's a different story than what's happening a lot this year.
Yes.
Well, and I know judging intent can be a slippery slope. But, I mean, you can't tell me that you can't tell the difference, like, when it's malicious or not. It's not that hard to tell.
Yeah.
It just is not. And the fact, that's why I bring up the offensive part. Like, they're not even, like, it's a terrible rule, and they're not even being consistent. Like, they're not even doing it correctly. If you're going to do it, at least do it correctly. And like you said, like, being ejected, not only ejected, but suspended, essentially, for the first half.
Yeah.
Like, there's not that many. This isn't, Major League Baseball, like, where there's 800 games. Like, there's 12 games.
Like, yeah.
These are huge.
Yeah, and
hugely important.
That's a good comment out of my comment section there. Skalski, who we were talking about, right? Who got in trouble for targeting against Justin Fields, right? We all remember that hit to the back.
Yep.
We remember
more so, yeah.
Yeah, we remember that he had to come in the second half for getting ejected for targeting the game before that, and then he went and targeted again. Those are the easy to see. Leading with the crown of the helmet straight down to the middle of an offensive player that's not even dropping down, that's easy to see. If there's a hard hit anywhere, now you're looking for a flag.
Mm-hmm. It is true. What they ought to do to revamp this rule is the intent needs to be, they need to classify that more so, make that more prevalent than anything, instead of just leaving with the crown of the helmet. Launching is a great indicator. You leave your feet, you're going into a mode where you're not controlling your body anymore at that point. So yeah, that's a targeting call.
Yeah, and I hate the ones that the ones in the NFL that we're seeing right now are and I almost want to say it's almost baited. You'll see it when a defensive player's coming up to come tackle a quarterback and they slide, like their momentum's carrying them into them.
They've been pretty good about not making that call. The games I've been watching, but my problem is like with the Oregon player and whatnot, they need to take it they need to have set rules. If it happens in the first quarter, that player needs to miss that game, and then if it's in the first quarter, at the 6-minute mark, well, guess what? He has to go into the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter before he can come back. He doesn't need to be missing 4 quarters of football.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say. That to me is where the rules crap. It all depends. If you make a targeting call at the end of the fourth quarter, you're going to miss 2 quarters. You know what? You missed the shortest possible amount of football. But if you do it at the beginning of the third quarter, guess what? You missed an entire game, basically 2 quarters plus the next 2 quarters because it was in the second half. So you automatically miss the first half, the next game. I think that rule is garbage.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you there. And
yeah,
now something new on the show here, moving on. I think we all hit it on the head. We're not a big fan of the targeting rules. I think everybody in the country is kind of on the same page of that right now. I see a lot of a lot of people in agreement that targeting is kind of ruining stuff when it comes to just hard-hitting football. But now I got trivia. I got 10 questions I'm going to ask you guys. I'll let you guys go one at a time and let the other person answer. Whoever has the most points wins. So,
Ryan, you win.
No, I wouldn't say. So it gets easier to harder. Okay, is the way I set this up. I did my research. So
it gets easier to. Starts off easier?
It starts out easier, yes.
Okay.
Which school has the most wins when featured on College Game Day? So the school that would win the most, that has the most wins when they've been featured on College Game Day. Like every school has probably been on College Game Day, but which team has won the most? Yeah, I think these are the high-profile games, right?
Right.
I got a comment in my chat that said Mount St. Joe.
I mean,
I was thinking Bishop Sycamore. But...
Yeah, that's.
I honestly don't have much of an idea.
I'll give a homer answer. Ohio State.
Ohio State is correct. They lead.
Really?
Yeah, so they actually they're tied for the most appearances on College Game Day with Alabama. But Ohio State has a better overall record. On College Game Day, they have a 35-15 record in their history.
Wow.
I thought Alabama was too obvious.
Well, Alabama does have the most appearances tied. for it. But, okay. Now, this one is kind of hard. I'll say this. This one is kind of hard. Okay. Matt, you might get this one more than Ryan. But what team, before Notre Dame, was Cincinnati's last top 10 victory?
Was it Wisconsin?
Not Wisconsin. You got to guess, Ryan?
UCF.
Nope. Top 10 team. Ryan, you're probably lost here. You don't watch much Cincinnati football. I'll give you a hint, Matt. The team is in the Big Ten.
That's why I was guessing. I know they beat Wisconsin one year.
Yeah. It was at Cincinnati.
At Iowa?
Nope. It's a good guess, but it was actually, this is how long ago it was, Rutgers in 2006.
Oh, that's
holy
brutal.
crap.
Yeah, that's... Cincinnati beat number 7 in the country, Rutgers, 30-11 in 2006.
Rutgers was number 7 at one point.
Was number 7.
Was that back when they were a high school?
Dude,
I know they're the oldest college.
I'm doing my research, okay?
You went deep into the archives.
This one might be a little bit easier. Known as Tight End University, what school did George Kittle, Noah Fant, T.J. Hawkinson, and Dallas Clark all attend?
Iowa,
that is correct.
Good.
Why are they so good at pumping out tight ends?
Corn.
Corn
fed.
This one might be kind of obvious here. What conference has the highest winning percentage in bowls in the last 5 seasons?
Big Ten.
We all know it's the Big Ten.
Yeah, that's correct. But they don't have the most wins. The SEC has the most wins, but they have a 24-24 record sitting at 500. The Big Ten have a better winning percentage at 21-12 in bowls in the last 5 years.
It would have been better if Michigan would have won the last 4 or 5 years in a row, but they just seem to always lose their bowl game.
I know. I kind of found it a little surprising. You know how I always try to pump the Big Ten in there, but I really, genuinely surprised that the SEC sitting at 24-24.
Well, that's because everybody, as soon as you say SEC, we all go to Alabama, and then who's the other team? LSU, Georgia, Auburn that year, whatever. But it's just when they play outside their conference, they're not as good as everybody thinks they are.
That might be 24 Alabama wins compared to the rest of the conference's losses.
It very well could be.
Okay, here's one. It's getting harder now. What team has won the most national championships? I really don't think you guys are going to get this one. I'll say that.
So it's not an obvious answer.
No, it's not. I know it's not.
Because yeah, but what team has won the most national championships?
Well, give us a region of the country.
Maybe tell us, yeah.
Or region
maybe
of
the conference or something.
That would give it away.
Region of the country.
Region of the country.
Yeah, you got the East Coast, West Coast, North, South, middle of the country.
I was thinking, what are you talking about here? So,
yes,
it's in the upper East Coast.
Ohio's not all there is.
East Coast, you said?
Upper East Coast.
Well, that was probably Rutgers then.
East Coast.
Yeah. It wasn't Rutgers, but that was a good guess. I'm assuming you guys just aren't going to get this. I'll give you a hint. They've won 18 national championships.
Is this Division I?
Yeah.
How the heck? No one's any good up in the
Buffalo.
It's actually Yale. They have 18 championships, but their last championship came in 1927.
Oh, wow.
See, this is what I don't like here. I don't think that football should count. Yeah, I don't think that football should count.
It should count. They played, man.
Yeah, right. I'm looking at their team picture, and I think that my backyard football team could hang with these guys.
Yeah, it was a different walk of life then, too, though. I mean, you can't do that, man. You can't take that team and put it today. I mean,
let them line up against Alabama today.
Look at the average high school player compared to the average high school player 15 years ago. It's night and day difference, man.
Okay, now, I know exactly what you mean. Everybody's getting bigger and stronger and faster and everything, right?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
That is completely mind-blowing.
Well, good. That's the whole point of this. What college has the biggest stadium in college football?
Neyland, University of Tennessee. No, Michigan. Big House.
Well,
it might be Tennessee.
It's actually Michigan. Yeah, he was right.
It is Michigan.
Okay.
So Michigan holds the most with 107,601. The next two schools. Right, Neyland is number 4.
Okay.
The next two schools. Do you guys have a guess who they could be? It's Michigan, and then there's
Notre
two more
Dame.
schools. Nope.
Is it Tennessee?
Nope. Tennessee's 4.
No. Ohio Stadium's up there.
Ohio State is 3 with 102,780. Number 2.
Who's number 2?
I was thinking it was Alabama before, but it's not.
It's not. I know it's not. Alabama's not even the number 1 in the SEC. Tennessee is.
Yep, SEC, they're number 4. Tennessee's number 1. No. The number 2 is Penn State with 106,572.
I was going to say Happy Valley, but I should have said
all 3 Big Ten schools. I was surprised by that.
Oh, I bet you did that on purpose.
No, I wouldn't do that. Fun fact about Bryant-Denny, Alabama, while I was looking them up. They are the 4th biggest stadium in the SEC. They have 101,000, so they're all over 100,000 right there. LSU is up there as well. Tennessee is number 1 in the SEC, but Bryant-Denny being number 4 in the SEC is still the 8th largest stadium in the U.S.
Hey, Ryan, my daughter goes to the University of Tennessee. Neyland Stadium, way cool place to go to.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah, it's it's really cool.
I've still yet to go to a game there. I'll have to do that. Maybe I'll have to host a show on the field before the game and do trivia. But
oh yeah.
This one is probably the easiest question on here. What school has the most players in the NFL currently?
Ohio State.
No.
Or no, it's
Alabama, right?
Alabama is number 1. Alabama has 54 current players in the NFL. Second is Ohio State with 50. And then there's a pretty decent drop-off after that. I think LSU is number 3, actually. Kind of surprised at that.
Well, they had that great year. I mean, with Jamar Chase and all that, because a lot of people set out last year. But, yeah, I can see that.
But, yeah, impressive out of those two. And that goes exactly with what you were talking about, Ryan, why you don't want to just drop. You're not a big believer that Ohio State would drop down to be the 11th best team in the country, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's one that I dug in the archives for. You guys are both older than me. You guys have been watching college football longer than me. Maybe you guys will know this. What school was the last team to beat Alabama in the regular season that wasn't in the SEC?
In the regular season.
In the regular season. I had to throw that in there or else you'd be thinking playoff. It's not in the playoff. The last team to beat Alabama in the regular season that wasn't in the SEC. I'll give you a hint. It's probably not as far back as you're thinking. Nick Saban was the head coach.
Okay.
Trying to think of when he threw a fit.
Yep, there is a huge clip from this game of him throwing a fit.
Yeah, because I just can't put. I can almost see it, and I can't put my.
It was a while ago, though. It was Nick Saban's first season under Alabama.
Okay.
It was also an unranked team.
Was it an in-state team? Because if it's an out-of-conference team, that means he played them early in the season.
It was the season opener for Nick Saban at Alabama in 2007?
I'll take a guess. Southeast Louisiana.
It was Louisiana Monroe. They beat Alabama 21-14 in Nick Saban's first season. They also, fun fact about this, because Ryan knows I dig deep at here, because I love to discredit Alabama's Week 1 won't play at home and home, but they're changing it. They have not played a team that's finished in the top 10 in the rankings since Nick Saban's been the head coach. But moving on from that, I thought that was kind of interesting. Yeah, there's an infamous Nick Saban picture and video of him freaking out from this game.
So that was his first ever game there.
Yeah.
Huh,
they lost to Louisiana Monroe, right? Crazy. Now, here's one off of this season. So, what school in the rankings won't play a non-conference Power 5 opponent?
What school in the rankings won't play?
They're currently ranked, and before even conference play, they will not play a Power 5 opponent. So they're only playing FCS schools. And they're out of conference.
Alabama.
They played Miami.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, say it again.
What school that's currently ranked did not play a non-conference Power 5 opponent? I'll give you guys a hint. It's not in the Big Ten or the SEC.
I just heard this. Notre Dame?
Nope.
Currently ranked.
Yep, they're currently ranked, but it's a reason that I'm not super high on this team.
Did not play. They
did not play a Power 5 opponent in their non-conference. They only played FCS schools. They're the only team in the rankings that did it.
In the non-conference, okay.
Yep.
It's probably A&M, right?
No. No, so a team that I was talking about that I wasn't very high on last week, it's actually Oklahoma State.
Oh.
So they played Jacksonville State, and they played Jefferson City, something like that, and they won by a touchdown. But they did not play a Power 5 opponent until they played Baylor this past week. Which is why I struggled to put them high up in the rankings.
Yeah, they had Missouri State, Tulsa.
Yeah,
Boise
Missouri State, that's
Kansas
what it was.
State.
They just played
Kansas
State.
Yeah,
that's right.
Baylor.
Yeah, it was Kansas State was the week one. Yeah.
Yeah, that Baylor's their first conference game.
Yeah, and here's the final question here. What team currently has 4 top 10 teams on their schedule that they 100% guaranteed played or still has left to play? So
Ohio State.
Ohio State does not have Iowa technically on the schedule. I knew that was going to be like the obvious one, but it's not Ohio State. I'm talking 4 confirmed games of teams that are in the top 10 right now.
4 confirmed. See, top 10.
Well, it's someone in the Big Ten.
They are in the Big Ten.
Yeah, they have to be.
But, I mean, I don't
Michigan
know who it is.
It's a good try, but it's actually Nebraska. So they had Oklahoma, Penn State, Iowa, and Ohio State all on their schedule.
Oh, wow. And I'm telling you, man, Nebraska is...
They just played Oklahoma to a one-score game. Ryan, you watched that game, right?
They're my upset pick. I'm telling you. I think they're going to beat Michigan.
Yeah, and they just beat Northwestern by 7 touchdowns, who just went to the Big Ten Championship last year. Might not be that high on them. But now we're going to move on to our final topic today, and that's going to be our predictions. Of course, I got our pick records up on the board from the Pick'em app. Anybody welcome to join, like I said before. I'm sitting at 30-18. Ryan's at 24-16, and Matt, you're at 27-21.
And this is our college.
Yeah, this is our college pick'em.
I've missed on my upset games pretty bad.
Yeah. So I got all the top 25 teams here, their games in this weekend with the spreads ahead of us. There's a couple, not as many, highly touted games this week, but there's some that kind of give you I thought the games were kind of hard to pick this week, but we're going to start out with the Thursday night game. Coastal Carolina is playing Arkansas State on the road. Coastal Carolina is favored by 19.5. I guess the question here really isn't if they're going to win, it's if they're going to cover.
Well, they're playing to cover. I mean, that's going to be their goal the rest of the season, and that's their only way to stay to get. I mean, their goal is to try to get a New Year's Day bowl, and they do have a shot at it if they win out, but that's the only shot they have, and they gotta win. They gotta cover every game.
Yeah, this is actually the highest over/under in the top 25 this week with 72.5.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there. Like, style points are very important for them, so I think they're gonna cover.
Yeah, so now we move on to the Friday night games. First off, Thursday night football, college probably does not get that much traction viewer-wise, but Friday night we got two ranked teams playing Friday night. We got Temple going to Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 29 here at Nippert.
I'll chime in. Temple plays Cincinnati tough, and they play them tough every year. And if Desmond Ridder wants to have a shot at this Heisman, I don't know. I mean, with the poise he's had, I don't see him looking at the Heisman Trophy. He's just looking at W's and moving on and keep moving on. But they have to have a big game. And he has to play all the way through three quarters. I don't care if they're winning by 3 touchdowns. They got to leave him in the game, and they got to continue to impress, just like Coastal Carolina, unfortunately. Being a Power 6 team, being ranked that high.
Yeah.
It's kind of a double negative.
Yeah, I agree with you. Temple even plays Cincinnati tough in basketball. Every time when Cincinnati was ranked in the top 5 in basketball, they were doing the same thing.
They're an Achilles heel for them.
Yeah, but I think this year Cincinnati is just too good. I mean, you watched it in the Notre Dame game. As long as they don't overlook people and they take it one game at a time, I think they win. I'll say they don't cover barely by maybe. I think they win by 24.
Yeah, I go 25. And like I told you earlier yesterday, I think we spoke about it. When you can rush 3 defensive linemen and get pressure on the quarterback, you're going to have a really good season with that kind of defense.
Especially with a first-round pick at corner.
Yeah.
Ryan, your take?
I mean, I'll just take your guys' word for that one.
Yeah, you don't have much Cincinnati coverage over there, do you?
No, I mean you guys know more about them than me. They're a really awesome team, though.
Yeah,
they are fun to watch too, man. They are a fun team to watch.
No, I mean, and I was, of course, a little bit slow to buy into them as like a elite team, But I mean, I think they're. I don't remember where I put them in the ranking.
I think you have them at
6, maybe?
6. Yeah, you have them at 6 over Oklahoma now.
So I have them over Oklahoma. Like that's pretty good.
Yeah. Now the second game on Friday, kind of an interesting one for you, Matt. I don't think me and you will be chiming into this 10:30 start time. But Stanford at Arizona State. Arizona State's favored by 12.
That's you, Ryan.
Yeah. or it's not. It's Ryan.
I don't know, man.
Oh,
yeah.
He doesn't like Stanford very much right now. I guess.
No, they're my most hated team, like for 10 years now. So, like, I don't want to pick them, but they did just beat us. So there is that.
So you're going to be rooting for Stanford for the rest of the year the same way that we root for you guys the rest of the year, right?
That's the disgusting position that I'm put in.
That's like us having to root for Michigan, huh?
I'm going to say, yeah. except it's well, yeah, but I guess I'll say Arizona State will win, but I don't like them to cover.
Okay.
That seems a bit steep.
We're going to move on to Saturday, the day that actual college football should be played and is played. Fridays for high school. But
Right.
a battle of the overrated starting at noon. We got 13 Arkansas playing 17 Ole Miss. Both these teams coming off of at least 3-score letdowns this past week. Ole Miss is favored by 6.
Why?
Are you asking why they have a ranking next to them this high? Or are you asking why there's there's a lot of whys around this game? Like why? I'll say it. I'll come out and say it and be blunt about it. Why do we care when either of these teams will compete with the top of their conference?
I'll say it right now. The only reason they're getting a point spread is because they're at home. And they've kept it within 1 score because they feel like this game will be within 1 score. But it could be, 6-3 for all we know. Or it could be a complete meltdown on defense and be, 45-42. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, why is Ole Miss favored to win that game? I don't really understand that.
He's saying it's because they're at home. Yeah, I mean, I think these teams are kind of similar.
Okay.
Everybody bought into Arkansas after they destroyed A&M, who just lost to Mississippi State, by the way. So I don't know how much I didn't get sold by Arkansas. I've been sold by Ole Miss. I'm going to take Arkansas in this game. Just to take Arkansas. Ole Miss fell out of my rankings for me. They're at 17 in the AP poll. Quite frankly, I don't give a crap about the AP poll because, they'll do whatever they can. But this is one of the games that are hard to pick just because, there's not a clear team that's really better than the other in this game, right?
Well, yes, that is true. Ole Miss has I guess they do have a quarterback who's, in the Heisman conversation.
Yeah, Matt Crow.
But there is that, but I just don't, from a resume standpoint, we keep saying it, they have fewer games played.
Yeah.
And they haven't played anyone who's any, beaten anyone who's any good.
Yeah.
Arkansas has a better resume, right?
I would say so. Arkansas also has a win over Texas.
Yeah, so I just don't really understand what Ole Miss. It's like you with A&M. What have they done to?
Oh, don't worry. It's like me with Ole Miss on that too. They haven't done anything to get there. So moving on to the next game. I'll be at this game, actually. The Maryland is going to Ohio State. Ohio State's favored by 21.
I got Ohio State covering that easily.
Yeah, I think they're answering back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, actually, Maryland's... wait a minute. Do I have my Maryland and Rutgers confused?
Maryland just got their butts whooped by Iowa last Friday, 51-14. But Maryland just beat West Virginia, so what's that got to say?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Maryland's beat Illinois, Howard, Kent State.
Yeah, they were 4-0.
Wow. Well, I still think Ohio State covers that game because Ohio State's figuring their defense out. I told you at the beginning of the season when you asked me about Ohio State, I was like, their problem is their defense. They get that figured out. You got a freshman quarterback that's going to get better each game. But as long as that defense can keep teams off the field, they should cover that. Yeah, I go with the cover.
I think they do too. I think they win by even more. And like I said, I'll be at this game with Chris, Kaylee's stepdad, Matt. We're gonna go, and I don't know. This has a pretty high over under at 69.5. But I think that the committee, well, I guess not technically the committee, but the AP, I don't think that they. I think that they're finally starting to realize, okay, maybe Ohio State's back to their former form. The last couple of weeks, they've looked a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
So Ryan, you want to put in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Maryland is probably better than what they put on display against Iowa. I mean, that was really, really bad.
Yeah, Tua's little brother did not make his little brother proud that game. I'll say that.
Yeah, Tiny Tua, as I call him. But what's the spread again?
Ohio State's 21.
21, yeah, that seems pretty reasonable. I'll say they covered, but, barely.
That's fair. Here's an interesting game here. Michigan State is going to Rutgers. Michigan State's favored by 5. Just 5. Rutgers just got beat down last week, but Rutgers also played a very tough game with Michigan the week before. So this game will kind of tell me where Rutgers is at, because before that, I want to say they started 3-0.
They did start 3-0. They beat Temple 61-14, Rutgers, Syracuse 17-7, then they beat Delaware 45-13, and then, of course, a competitive game with Michigan, only lost by a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then got blown out.
Even Rutgers, the bottom feeders of the Big Ten for years now, are going out of conference and winning their games. So, but Michigan State, This is kind of a, I don't know, I almost feel like this is a trap game, Matt.
Could be because you're traveling to, I'm telling you, home field advantage, and you probably agree with this, Ryan, it's a big deal this year. It truly is. I mean, you're seeing teams that are unranked beating ranked teams, and even though they're close games, and unfortunately in your game, it was an official blowing call. But yeah, man, you're seeing it constantly. So I could see Michigan State having trouble in this game. I truly can. It could be, it could be within a field goal.
They're predicting a 5-point spread, so I think they're almost predicting a trap game.
They are.
I mean, you guys are more Big Ten knowledgeable than me, but I mean, I'll take the cover.
Okay, that's fine. And then now we get to the big game for the noon games. I guess you want to say it's Red River this Saturday. 6 Oklahoma goes to number 21 Texas, where Oklahoma's only favored by 3.5. I'm really itching to pick Texas in this game.
I am picking Texas. 3 points, home field.
Yeah, I love Red River. It's a great rivalry. I think Oklahoma will cover pretty easily. I'm going to say this is the game where they, we kind of been waiting for.
You've been saying that the last 2 weeks, though.
So, well, let's see.
This is a hard game to pick.
You're
I'll
right,
say. This is a hard game to pick.
Not for me.
You're right about that.
Not for you?
Not for me.
You're taking Texas?
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Nebraska goes into Oklahoma and loses by 1 touchdown. West Virginia goes into Oklahoma, loses by 3. Oklahoma goes on the road and beats a bad Kansas State team by 6. I take Texas. Oklahoma's got to go to Texas.
I'm really tempted on picking Texas, too. I think I'm going to lean more towards picking Texas here. Ryan, you're staying with your guns at Oklahoma. And now moving on to the easiest game to pick on this schedule. Number 20, Florida, is playing Vanderbilt Saturday, where Florida's favored by 38 in a conference game.
Are they taking math tests, or is this a football game?
If this was baseball, this might be a little different, but Vanderbilt is the worst team in the Power 5, and I don't stand back from that. They lost a conference game 62-0 after going 0-9 last year. Florida covers, to me, the 38.
God. Look, Vegas knows what they're doing. These are Vegas odds. Let's just be honest. They know exactly what they're doing. They bait you in to bet these games. Man, I say they don't cover. I say they'll be up by 35, but not 38, because they'll show mercy on Vanderbilt.
For the SEC patch on their jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Georgia did not show the mercy. Georgia beat them 62-0. And it was 35-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah, they had a reason to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Ryan, you agree with Matt on that?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. I mean, I don't really like the high,
Well, I'm not betting money on it. I'm just saying I think they'll cover. So, moving on here.
They definitely could.
They could, yeah. Now, tell me what you think of this. The over-under on the Florida-Vandy game is 59.5, yet Florida's favored by 38. So they predicted Florida to put up some points.
They're predicting Vanderbilt not to score.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And moving on to the 3:30 time slot now for us. Interesting game here a little bit. Boise is going to BYU. BYU's favored by 5.
Oh, I'll take BYU to cover that.
Yeah, I was kind of leaning more towards that the more I kind of thought about it. Boise hasn't really done so much to sell me. But the thing is, BYU's a hard team to trust.
Well, Boise's also a hard team to bet against. They've always been spoilers, for the last 15 years. But I still take BYU at home. I'm telling you, fellas, coming off of this goofy COVID garbage, no fans in the stands and all that, and then you see all these packed out stadiums, it is making a huge difference for the home team.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I view BYU kind of similar to Coastal in that they're just kind of right outside the top 10, for me at least, or right around there, and they need to win some games convincingly, and I think this is a good opportunity for BYU to do that. So, yeah, I'll take a cover.
Yeah. Now, I did see a talk on College Game Day about playing like that, though. When you try to play to try to cover instead of to win, that's a lot of times when you slip up.
You can fall in that mantra. That's easy to do. Putting pressure on yourself to achieve a trophy that doesn't truly exist.
Yeah.
But, it all comes down to coaching when it comes down inside of that. I mean, you have to have decent coaching and keep these guys focused on the actual W. Even if you got to bring in your backup quarterback to get the focus back, because that guy's just wanting to show you he can play. Sometimes that's the difference in covering and not covering a game.
Yeah, and now a new team into the rankings, and this one, I know who we'd be rooting for here in this one, Matt. Number 24, SMU, first week in the rankings, goes to Navy, where SMU's favored by 13.5.
Navy's tough. Anytime you go in and you play a wishbone team, I don't care how good of a football team you are, they scheme against you. It's tough to defend the wishbone. I don't care who you are. But I want SMU to win, obviously. I want SMU to blow them out. I want SMU to keep climbing the rankings because University of Cincinnati needs another ranked opponent to play this year, and that would be another one for them. But I see them covering.
What do you see, Ryan?
I mean, I'll take a cover.
Okay. Now here's an interesting game here. Probably the best game in the 3:30 slot. Number 2 Georgia is playing at number 18 Auburn, where Georgia's favored by 14.5. I almost want to say Georgia wins, but does not cover because of the home field.
Yeah, I'm actually with you on that. I say they win by 10, not by 14.
Their offense is still not selling me. I mean, JT Daniels was out last week, and as much as we want to talk about it, yeah, they're wide receivers as well. And as much as we want to talk about Georgia's defense being really good, and shutting out Arkansas. Arkansas was definitely not, stout for their offense. Even in the Texas A&M game, they scored 14 off of turnovers, and they only scored 20 points. So I haven't seen Georgia play a really great offense yet. I'm not taking that away from their defense, but if they have to play Alabama and match points with them, I just don't know if I'm comfortable with that until they play a good offense. And I think Bo Nix will be the best offensive player that they've played so far.
I see Georgia not covering the point spread, but winning the game, like I said, 10. What do you think, Ryan?
This is a tough one. It's 14 or 14 and a half?
14 and a half.
Yeah, that half.
Vegas ain't stupid.
If they win by 2 touchdowns, you're not getting your money, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with you guys. I think, I mean, some of these SEC games, like, they can just be really, really tough.
Yeah.
And I think this will be one of those where, like, I think, like you're saying, 10. I agree with that.
Yeah, Auburn at home plays a pretty big factor for me for that.
Yeah, I mean, Auburn is pretty good. So, yeah, 10 seems.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely a game that's circled for them. But moving on to the last game of the 3:30 slot, playing the Who Cares game, we got 19 Wake Forest playing away at Syracuse. Syracuse lost to Rutgers, and how embarrassing is it that Wake Forest is playing Syracuse, and Wake Forest is, one of the only undefeated teams in the ACC now, and they're favored by 6.5.
I think Syracuse is just waiting for tip-off for basketball.
Yeah, I agree. But I think Wake
Forest I think Wake Forest covers and goes in there and takes care of business. It'll be ugly business, but it'll be business.
Yeah, I almost see like an ugly score to this game, like a 22-7, 19-8 ugly score.
Yeah.
But like
there might be a safety in there and a blocked extra point or something silly.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know why. I just got that feeling. Now here for the game of the week. Supposedly, we got number 4 Penn State going on the road to number 3 Iowa. Iowa's favored by 2. It's a hard game to pick. I think I'm almost leaning. I'm leaning towards Penn State a little bit though. I think it's going to be a close game, but this game is really hard to pick. I pondered this one for a while. They're definitely expecting a defensive battle here. 40.5 is the over/under.
Well, where my brain and heart wants to win. I want Penn State to win just for the opponent factor for Ohio State, but I can't ignore Iowa. I mean, I think Iowa covers. I think Iowa covers, and it might be as much as a touchdown.
How are you feeling for this one, Ryan? It's a hard game to pick.
What makes you, what's your reasoning for that?
For Penn State or for Iowa?
Yeah.
Well, they've got a pretty good offense, and they haven't been just winning their football games. They've been blowing people out. Now, that doesn't factor into how you're going to win against a really good opponent, but then it all comes down to home field advantage. I mean, if they're playing in Penn State and it's the same 2 opponents, I pick Penn State all day long in a whiteout game. All day.
So you got it narrow. Okay, so you're not just saying Iowa's convincingly better than Penn State. The home field advantage is. Well, we know as Ohio State fans, Matt, that on the road, 2016 we lose at Penn State, 2017 we lose at Iowa as Ohio State.
Right. That's what I'm getting at. Penn State to travel to Iowa is a big factor in that. And the point spread's only 2. I'm just saying I believe Iowa wins by a touchdown, 1 score. I mean, 7 points sounds like a lot when the spread's 2, but it's really only 1 score.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I did. A touchdown seems kind of like a lot, but
40.5 over under.
What's that?
The over-under is 40.5, so each team scoring about 20 points.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's pretty low?
Yeah, that's low.
It's definitely low.
Are you taking the over?
Yeah, I'd take the over in this game.
Yeah.
It's a hype game. I mean, anytime you have a hype game, teams run just a half a step faster, or they do. It's these guys get jacked up for these kind of games. You tend to see blowouts, or you tend to see high scoring games. It's the games that you don't pay any attention to on Sunday, and then all of a sudden you got a low scoring Michigan, barely beating Rutgers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's your pick, Ryan?
I mean, Penn State is just a bit more explosive to my eye. I think it's very, very. I mean, this should be a great game.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to watch it because, I mean, we don't get many games. I don't think that are this just even.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Penn State just,
off gut.
Barely. Just like winning on a field goal type of thing.
I hope you're right, Ryan.
This is just that game's insanely hard to pick. Yeah, I would say. But Matt, your upset special's coming up. But my upset special of this week, you guys might disagree, but I'm taking your home field advantage, Matt, and I'm disagreeing with it for this game, just this game. I think LSU goes into Kentucky and beats Kentucky this week. Kentucky's favored by 3.
Well, I just from history alone, I can understand that pick, and or I can see it coming down. Them going to overtime. I don't see Kentucky blowing LSU out. I think it's a 3-point game either way. Either LSU's going to win by 3 or Kentucky's going to win by 3. Then that's how I see it. So, I mean, I basically what I'm saying is I flip a coin in that game.
Yeah, that's my upset. I don't know how big of an upset everybody really thinks it is. I see an unranked LSU team going to Kentucky. That's supposed to be 16th ranked in the country, and they're only getting 3 points. Obviously, Vegas isn't huge believers in them, I guess. But
my upset game. Oh, go ahead.
What are you seeing here, Ryan?
I agree. I put Kentucky in my rankings, but
I think you put them at 25, right?
Yeah, because I just, for lack of something better, like I think what happened with Florida is basically a fluke.
Okay.
So that's kind of my logic. I mean, I don't know what Kentucky. I mean, they're undefeated, but they haven't really beat anybody.
The game that Kentucky's played that sticks out to me is a 28-23 victory over Chattanooga at home.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the game that sticks out to me on their schedule. If that game was 58-23, I might pick Kentucky in this game. But it was 28-23.
I think, stuff happens in college football, and you can't always make too much of it. You know what I mean? So
yeah. So the last game in the 7:30 slot is Matt, your upset special of the week. Number 9, Michigan going to Nebraska. Michigan favored by 3.5.
I have Nebraska winning that game outright, and it might be a 1-point victory. It might be 21-20 for all I know, but I have Nebraska winning that football game. Like I said, Nebraska's on the cusp. They could have 2 more wins on their schedule easily right now. Easily, they've lost by 3 and they've lost by 7.
And one was to Oklahoma.
And Michigan, they start out the games very slow. If you notice, every single game they played this year, the other team is in the game with them all the way into the third quarter. They're kind of like Notre Dame, and they just fluke their way into the fourth quarter and blow it open. I think Nebraska hangs with them and keeps them in check the whole game.
The game that worries me for Michigan is last week's game for Nebraska. You don't usually see that type. Okay, like Nebraska, they're one of the teams with Scott Frost that since he's been there, they've been a team that you might see them compete in some games. You know what I mean? Here and there, they compete or stay close. You don't see Nebraska blowing people out until this year.
Yeah, 56-7 against Northwestern, and they lost by 3 to Michigan State, which is number 11 in the country. And like you said, number 6 Oklahoma, they lost by a touchdown.
Like,
and
I know
that was at their stadiums. That was at Oklahoma and at Michigan State. When Nebraska went home, they blew out Northwestern. And where was Northwestern last year at the end of the season?
In the Big Ten championship. Yeah.
Right. So my point is, Nebraska is on the cusp of being the team they used to be when Scott Frost played for them.
And the thing is, it like we were talking about earlier, it's only better for the Big Ten because let me know when the bottom feeder, let me know when Vanderbilt wins a game by 50. You're not going to see it. Like Nebraska and Rutgers are the cellar dwellers of the Big Ten, right?
Hey,
somebody's got to be at the bottom.
Vanderbilt is bad at football. You just need to cut them a little slack. They're the Harvard of the South for a reason.
Yeah, if this was an academic show, I'd be praising them. But I'm talking about college football, and I'm talking depth. And Nebraska and Rutgers, who are supposed to be the worst in the Big Ten, are just providing depth, being better.
Absolutely. Nebraska is a good team. They're my upset pick, and I think they're going to win. It may only be 1 or 2 points, but I think they win.
How are you feeling, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit conflicted because you guys make a good case. I think I mentioned this maybe last week. Michigan, they seem like a bit of a front runner in that, once they have expectations, they tend to struggle, underperform.
Yeah, you were bringing this up, Ryan. Just to reiterate it, Matt, he was basically saying, he said Michigan's one of the team that flies under the radar, gets wins. As soon as they get attention, they freeze.
Well, I'm pulling up the Washington game that they played. Washington, that was 0-2 at the time. Mm-hmm. And Washington's no good this year. Am I correct on that, Ryan?
They're not very good, no.
All right, Michigan was winning that game at halftime 10-0.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is they end up winning the game 31-10. They're a slow starting football team. And if there's a team that can hang with them defensively and keep them in check, like Nebraska, that's why I have them as the upset.
No, I think I'm gonna agree with you there. I'm gonna go with the upset as well.
I'm gonna go with the counter, just for one reason, the biased fan reason of I want to keep Michigan in the top 10 for as long as possible. So, but the thing is, my gut is not necessarily saying that just because of the game last week. Like I said, Matt, you watch Ohio State and all this weekly. When's the last time you saw Nebraska blow somebody out?
I haven't. That's
a conference team. It doesn't happen.
Rebuilding that. Yeah, they've been rebuilding that for the last 2 seasons. So this is finally reaping what he's been sown with his recruits and his culture there, and it's starting to show up. Because Nebraska, you guys are a lot younger than me. I remember Nebraska winning the national title. Mm-hmm. I remember Colorado and Nebraska going at it. I remember this, late 80s, early 90s. Nebraska was a tough team to beat, and then they just disappeared. And he's bringing them back to the forefront, man. He's doing a great job there. It's
kind of inspiring me for a second coming of Yale to make a run from 1927. Leather helmet.
Leather helmets with the microphones inside.
Yeah. Also a very hard game to pick here. Probably the last hard game to pick. Number 14, Notre Dame goes to Virginia Tech. One of the most hostile environments in college football, where Notre Dame's favored by 1.
1?
Oh,
1.
this is
It's a hard
Ryan,
game to pick, too.
Then I'll chime in.
I think Notre Dame should cover that pretty easily.
Oh, you're still high on Notre Dame, huh?
I don't know if I would say I'm high on them. I'm not low on them. I think they're still really good.
I'm even ignoring the Cincinnati game and only looking at their body of work outside of that, and they haven't done anything to prove to me that they win games by more than 1.
Again, it's me and my reputation.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to chime in. Notre Dame has 3 second-string quarterbacks that play for them, and an offensive line that couldn't block for the Bengals at this point. I mean, they just
Yeah.
their
It was
offensive
pretty
line
bad.
their offensive line is a shambles. I'm telling you, University of Cincinnati rushed 3 guys in the game last week and was getting pressure on the quarterback, forcing bad throws. And I was like, if you can do that and drop 8 people in the coverage, you're going to win a lot of football games.
I'm impressed with Notre Dame, actually. That they're able to still be ranked 14th with a carousel of quarterbacks where they can't even decide who the best quarterback on the team is.
Well, Brian Kelly's got his work cut out. We're going to see how good of a coach Brian Kelly is from last week to this week. His team is his team. His team is the players he has right now. And your team only gets better when you coach them up, allow the player to play the game. We're going to see what kind of coaching staff they truly have from one week to the next. It's going to show. Now, I think Notre Dame wins this game. I want Notre Dame to win this game. Virginia Tech, though, at home is a very tough team to play, and they've shown it in the past with other ranked teams. But I do think Notre Dame covers, and I do think Notre Dame wins.
Here's my take on it. This game is only a 1-point spread because it's at Virginia Tech, and I'm not only saying that just because of the home field experience. I'm saying it specifically because it's Virginia Tech's home field experience. The same way that he was explaining LSU going to Death Valley. It's not just another home stadium. Virginia Tech is historically a lot better at home because they have one of the most ruckus environments. Enter Sandman. Very known there.
Dude.
Yeah, gives you chills watching it. I remember, watching it with you, Matt, in 2015 when Ohio State was ranked number 1 and went to Virginia Tech and they had Enter Sandman, and they froze at first. It took them a while to get going. Obviously, they overpowered them, but it's just.
I even chimed in on that on social network. I was like, "This is the coolest intro I've ever seen."
Yeah, it is. It's literally insanely awesome. But I couldn't even imagine playing there. That's why this game is a 1-point spread. I think Notre Dame's probably a much better team than Virginia Tech overall. I think Notre Dame has the best tight end in the country. I think all 3 backup quarterbacks, as long as they can find him, if he's healthy, that would probably be their game plan, is to go around him, because I don't think Virginia Tech would probably have anybody that could handedly guard him, so at least double covering there should open up for other skill positions for them, but we'll see what Notre Dame does.
Right, I agree.
So, one of the easiest games to pick, hopefully. I don't look like an idiot for this, but number 1 Alabama travels to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is giving Alabama 17.5.
Well, it should be called Texas. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Because they're going to get stomped.
Matt, this is the number 5 team in the country from 3 weeks ago. You can show them a little bit of respect. Alabama's going to win and double the cover. They might win by 30.
Yeah, they win.
Yeah.
They cover.
I like the cover.
Well, at least we're all on the same page here. I usually, any social media I load up, I'm attacked. If you look at one ESPN post, I saw Iowa would have 3 losses already if they played in the SEC. I said, no, they wouldn't because they would have scheduled Citadel and Mercer for the first 3 weeks. So
Chattanooga.
in Chattanooga, I saw Tennessee blew out Missouri on Saturday. I saw that was pretty good for them. I checked their schedule, Matt, and I was like, I didn't even know that Tennessee Tech was a school. And they killed
Georgia
them.
Texas school.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I just didn't expect Citadel, Mercer. Those are November type schools. You know, those are fighting for your conference type schools. You play them November 23rd.
Yeah. Those are rest your players types and keep your ranking type schools.
Yeah, but I think Bama's a step up on Notre Dame. And by a step, I mean they're at the top level of the escalator, and A&M has got their shoestrings stuck at the bottom and can't move. So I think they roll here. It's a 17.5 points spread, but the over-under is 51.5, so they're expecting Bama to put some points up.
I see them putting the points up. I mean, anytime they go up against teams like this, they have to. It's just the golden rule in college.
Yeah, and I think I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I discussed it with you before. You know, that's why I love college football so much, or the NFL compared to college. I love college football, the competitiveness, everything about it. You know, most of these kids were in high school last year or 2 years removed from high school. But the NFL, it's all about the W. It doesn't matter if you win by 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns, 1 point, a half a point. It don't matter.
Yeah.
A W is a W. In college, it ain't that way. You got to have some style points.
Yeah, and I have a love-hate with that.
I do too. I think it puts the kids at risk, but what do I know?
I think this is also a game that Nick Saban knows. He probably wouldn't say it in the media, but he knows that he kind of has to, not necessarily a statement game because he's Alabama, but he knows that Georgia's playing Auburn. So if Georgia really impresses, they could jump Alabama if they don't, win by a considerable margin, I think.
That's a fair point because I know we were both considering moving Georgia ahead of Alabama.
Yeah. And if Georgia comes out and covers a 14 on Auburn or wins by a little bit more and Bama beats A&M by 10 or 13, I think they could jump them.
Yeah. I was actually planning on moving Georgia to number 1. But then Alabama kind of destroyed Ole Miss, so. But yeah, I think that's a valid point too.
Do you see that at all, Matt, what I'm saying, or do you think they're just
I agree 100%. He's going to keep the pedal mashed just to keep Georgia at bay because that's a big deal, man, whoever goes to the SEC. Because if you're not number 1 going into that SEC championship and you lose that championship, you could be out of the playoffs. You're running a risk if you're number 2 going in that championship and you lose. You see what I'm saying?
I 100% see exactly what you're saying. And
so he has to stay number 1.
Yeah, and when you go to the SEC championship 1 versus 2, the higher ranked team gets to pick what uniform they wear. Who doesn't want that?
Again, man, Alabama's going to do whatever they can to keep that number 1 ranking. But I don't think anybody's got enough guts out there to drop them if they win and they don't win by a whole bunch. I still say they stay number 1. No one's going to drop them.
So you think if Georgia even blows out Auburn, like blows the doors off of them, and Bama doesn't cover against A&M, they keep them at 1?
It'd be an argument, but they're not going to punish Alabama for winning.
I agree. I think it's a thought, though, for Nick Saban. The same way that Cincinnati has to win, like, obviously by not as much, but, like...
Cover.
Yeah, they got to cover. I agree with that. And I think they know Georgia's on their tail. The last game to pick, I mean, I kind of wish this wasn't the last game to pick because, like, really, New Mexico at San Diego State. San Diego State's ranked 25th, and they're favored by 19.5. I guess I'll take San Diego State. I mean, I haven't really watched the Aztecs that much this year. I'll be honest, because their games, I want to say, start at 2 a.m. So, like, I mean, Hawaii plays on Sundays for us. Like, it's already into that point. Like, San Diego State, I couldn't tell you one thing about them. Like, that's probably not a great thing to say, but like they're not even in my rankings.
Steve McNair.
There you go.
Did McNair go there?
If he was still there, I would probably be more into this game.
I know about San Diego State right now. Well, I'll pick them. I'll pick the dog and go with the point spread. I say they cover because they're hungry. Yeah. Anybody that jumps in at 25 wants to keep moving up.
Yeah,
they're not looking to just maintain.
Yeah, and the thing is, they got Clemson, the 26th team, receiving a lot of votes. So if they win unimpressively and Clemson wins by probably 10 or more, then they'll probably put them in there.
Yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah, I think that's some good logic. I agree.
Well, that's going to be it for the show. Thank you guys for coming on. We're here every Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. Matt, really thank you. Enjoyed having you on tonight.
Ryan, it's been a pleasure. Paul, it's been awesome. And I'd love to do it again.
100%. We'll definitely be inviting you back.
All righty, sir.
All right, well, everybody.
You guys have a good one.
You too, everybody. Thank you for sticking around tonight. It was a good show. Went through a lot. Everybody knows that you can join the pick'em. Either leave a comment down below, or you have all my socials. So you could just go there, join our pick'em, see how we did, see if you're better than us at it. But we'll be back next Tuesday. Thank you guys for stopping by. Ryan, you want to sign them off?
Yeah, well, that was a good episode.